Walt Disney's Cinderella.
Mom,
Yeah.
They need beads for Cinderella's dress.
They need beads for Cinderella's dress. Let's find out how they get it. Why do you think they need beads?
Because to look more pretty.
Oh, to look more prettier. That's right. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Cinderella. She lived with her stepmother. The stepmother did not like Cinderella. She made her work very hard every day.
When she comes out.
Cinderella had two stepsisters. Their names were Drizella and Anastasia. The stepsisters never had to work. They just pranced around in the house in their fancy dresses. And they always made fun of Cinderella because her dress was so plain. One day, a letter came to the house. Drizella, Anastasia, cried the stepmother, listen to this. She read the letter. It said, the king is giving a ball tonight. His son, the prince, will choose a wife. Every girl in the kingdom must be there. Then I can go too, said Cinderella. You, cried the stepsisters, and they laughed and laughed. But it says every girl in the kingdom must be there, said Cinderella. The stepmother smiled and said, of course you may go, Cinderella. You may go if you do your work first, and if you have a dress to wear. Oh, thank you, said Cinderella, and she ran up to her room. Some mice lived in Cinderella's room. They were Cinderella's friends. She had even made little clothes for them. Guess what? She cried. I'm going to the ball at the palace. Hooray! Cried the mice. Then she showed them an old dress. It just needs a little mending, said Cinderella. Maybe a sash and some beads to make it pretty. Yes, yes, Cinderella, said the mice. Cinderella, called the stepmother. Cinderella went downstairs. I want you to clean the floors and wash the windows and dust the drapes, said the stepmother. But I did that all yesterday, said Cinderella. Do it again, said the stepmother. Cinderella worked as fast as she could, but there was always one more thing to do. Cinderella, Cinderella, Cinderella. Oh dear, said Cinderella. I'll never have time to mend my dress. They make Cinderella work, 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 said a fat mouse named Gus. She'll have no time to fix her dress, said a skinny mouse named Jack. We can do it, cried the mice. We can fix Cinderella's dress. What do they sing?
We can do it, we can do it. We can help Cinderella get the dress.
Make her dress so pretty. There's nothing to it really. Gus and Jack sneaked into a big room. The stepsisters were dressing for the ball. I hate this old sash, said Drizella, and she threw it on the floor. I never want to see these beads again, said Anastasia, and she dropped them on the floor. Jack grabbed the sash, and Gus picked up the beads. They took them to Cinderella's room. Look, we found these, said Gus. Now we can make Cinderella's dress really pretty, said Jack. And they measured, and they cut, and they folded, and they sewed, and they worked as fast as they could, and the hours went by quickly. Cinderella had to help the stepsisters with their dresses. When she was done, the stepmother said, It's time to go to the ball, girls. Are you ready, Cinderella? No, said Cinderella sadly. I did not have any time to fix my dress. Too bad, said the stepsisters. You must learn to work faster, said the stepmother. They watched Cinderella go up to her room. When Cinderella opened the door, she saw something wonderful. Her dress was ready. Surprise! Surprise! Cried the mice. It's the prettiest dress I've ever seen, said Cinderella, and she put it on. Cinderella ran down the stairs. Wait, she called. I can go now. I have a dress. The stepmother and the stepsisters could not believe their eyes. My sash, cried Drizella. My beads, cried Anastasia, and they ripped off the sash and pulled off the beads, and Cinderella's dress was ruined. Come along, girls, said the stepmother. The prince is waiting for you. And off they went to the palace. Cinderella was left behind. Cinderella ran into the garden. The mice ran after her. Oh, how I did wish I could go to the ball, said Cinderella, but it's no use. Wishes never come true. Never, my dear, said a voice. Who is it? Cinderella looked up. There was a tiny little woman with a wand. I'm your fairy godmother, she said, and I'm here to give you your wish. Now let me see, said the fairy godmother. I'll need a pumpkin and a horse and a dog. What luck! They're right here. Oh, and yes, I'll need some mice. When the mice heard this, they began to run, but the fairy godmother stopped them with her wand. Now for the magic words. Salakadoola, michikaboola, bibbity bobbity boo. She waved her wand. The pumpkin turned into a coach. The horse turned into a coachman. The dog turned into a footman. And the mice turned into white horses. Now hop in, my dear, said the fairy godmother. Got my dress, said Cinderella. Oh my, I almost forgot, said the fairy godmother. She waved her wand. Cinderella looked down. Her dress turned into a white gown, and her shoes turned into glass slippers. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, said Cinderella. Now hop into the coach, said the fairy godmother. But remember, all the magic ends when the clock strikes 12. I won't forget, said Cinderella. And off she went to the palace. At the ball, the king was complaining. The prince has met all the girls in the kingdom, he said, and he has not found one he likes. Give him time, said the Grand Duke. He's had enough time, cried the king. Just then, Cinderella walked into the ballroom. When the prince saw her, he bowed. May I have this dance? He asked. Yes, said Cinderella. All night, the prince danced only with Cinderella. They danced her on the floor as if in a dream. And everyone said, how lovely she is. Who can she be?
You.
It's the stepmother. The hours went by quickly. Suddenly, the clock began to strike midnight. Cinderella ran down the palace steps. As she ran, she lost a glass slipper. When the prince reached the steps, Cinderella was gone. He picked up her tiny glass slipper. The girl who wore this slipper is the girl I want to marry, said the prince. He told the Grand Duke to find her. Even before Cinderella was home, the magic had ended. The coach turned back into a pumpkin. The coachman turned back into a horse. The footman turned back into a dog. And there were Cinderella and the mice, just as before. The next day, the Grand Duke took the glass slipper to every house in the kingdom. At last, he came to the house where Cinderella lived. Cinderella was up in her room. First, Drizella tried on the slipper, but her foot was much too long. And then Anastasia tried on the slipper, and her foot was much too wide. Are there any other girls in this house? The Grand Duke said. No, said the stepmother. Just then, Cinderella came down the stairs. Who is this? Asked the Grand Duke. She is only the maid, said the stepmother. I don't care, said the Grand Duke. She too must try on the slipper. And it fit perfectly. Then Cinderella reached in her pocket and pulled out the other glass slipper. The Grand Duke bowed to Cinderella. "You are the girl the prince says that he must marry," said the Grand Duke. So Cinderella went to the palace to be married to the prince, and they lived happily ever after.
Mom,
Yes, sweetheart.
I didn't know she had a pocket.
She does have a pocket. That's where her glass slipper was.
But how could it fit in there?
A whole shoe in a pocket? Maybe her shoe was quite tiny.